to Property Tribes, and we know from the mainstream media that landlords are heading for the exit in their droves, and it's obviously down to taxation, Labour Party, anti-landlord policies, and of course the Renters' Rights Bill, which is in the pipeline. And so we thought that Property Tribes should provide a solution to that. And we have joined up with our trusted friend and colleague, Jason Harris-Cohen, MD of Open Property Group, who's joining me on the call. So, Jason, before we get going to explain the quick house buying solution you offer, I think it's interesting just to talk about your background and the Open Property Group, because you have so many different interests in the property sector, don't you?
Yeah, no, good to see you again, Vanessa. As I'm Jason Harris-Cohen, I'm the director and founder of Open Property Group, and we're professional house buyers. As a business, we've been established since 2014. We've completed over 1,500 transactions, and we're property traders and also professional landlords and investors. We're members of the Property Ombudsman for residential property buyers and also the National Association of Property Buyers. So all of our customers do have a redress scheme.
Well, I think that is important to to flag up right at the beginning, Jason, because the quick house buying arena and some of the providers within it actually have quite a bad reputation, something that Property Tribes doesn't want to be associated with, which is why, we've wanted to partner with you because we know that you provide a professional and trustworthy solution to landlords who are looking to sell quickly. And essentially, you are a genuine cash buyer, but you're not going to pay market value, are you?
No, that's right. Ultimately, we are, we do look at properties with commercial valuations. We are a trade buyer. So, to be frank, we offer 80%, around 80% of the true market value. If the property is rented, we do have to really try and achieve a minimum of 8% yield to meet our fund target. And we have to take into account things like service charges and ground rents. Most properties we buy, a lot of them are massively underlet. So what we will look at is actually what the estimated rental value is, maybe not what today's yield is. We would have a look at what we can relet for at market rent, and then we could base our yield calculation on that real estimated market rent.
Because we're saying this to manage people's expectations, because, you're not going to pay market value. You've already said it's going to be about 80% of the market value. But this is a solution for some landlords who want to sell very quickly. And I think it's also beneficial to understand that you will buy obviously tenanted properties. So that means that there's, rent being paid up to the date of completion, so no void. But there are other advantages to using your service as well, aren't there?
Yeah, that's right. Look, we've seen a huge surge in landlords who are looking for other solutions to sell. They don't want to evict their tenants. They've got long-standing relationships. They don't want to be left with an empty property servicing the mortgage interest. They're worried about vandalism and empty buildings insurance. So we've, provide a solution to them landlords who are looking for an exit without any loss of income, to be able to sell within the timescale that they want. And most landlords that we speak to are in no way financially distressed. They've all got large portfolios. The average number of properties that we buy in a portfolio is 3. And they're just looking for, for a solution where they can minimize any pain to their tenant, but also cash in. Most of them are at an age of retirement. So for them, speed and ease of service is more important than getting the highest potential price in uncertain times as well.
Indeed, because we're hearing at the moment that it is, a buyer's market. But I was thinking also, you may not need to disturb the tenant for a viewing. Sometimes, you can do an online valuation just with photographs, etc. So there's that sort of benefit as well. There's not kind of disruption of the tenancy through viewings, and also there's no estate agent fees either.
Yeah, that's right. We use all the latest software, so we're able to do, drive-bys of the property, Google Street View, aerial view, ordnance survey mapping, all the latest data. So we're able to view the property and make an offer without actually going inside. what we do ask sometimes is, a lot of properties we buy maybe suffer from common building problems, maybe damp, condensation issues, problems with boilers. Some of them may not be compliant. I think there's about 180 regulations now for landlords. So, a lot of it falls around things like the prescribed information and complying with the Deregulation Act 2015. We come across so many landlords where they haven't got evidence that they gave the tenant a copy of the gas safety certificate at the start of the tenancy. And there's been various case law over the last few years where Section 21 claims have been thrown out of court because of the failure to provide the tenant with the prescribed information at the start of the tenancy post 2015. So for us, we will take on any problem. We don't have to disrupt the tenant. We would prefer to go inside just so we can really get a true estimate of the condition. But if the landlord had a recent inventory, if they've got photographs, if they've done their own reports, then we'll take that into consideration to give our most accurate and best offer.
Now, would you consider a rental property where the tenant is in arrears?
Yeah, definitely. We buy lots of properties where there are tenants in rental arrears. We wouldn't be so bullish on pricing. For us, look, ultimately, we are professional investors, so we take on risk and we have to price the risk. So we'll take on any problem, any situation, whether the tenant's, in 12 months arrears, whether there is antisocial issues. We've come across every type of situation, but we have to price in the additional risk based on the situation. So as long as our customers are honest with us and give us a true summary of the situation, then we will just price that into our offer.
Okay, well, yes, of course, that makes perfect sense. Is there any property that you won't accept?
A few types. We're not really buying properties with cladding issues at the moment. So if there's not an EWS1, or if the EWS1 is a B1 or B2, we would generally stay away from them properties. We might make an exception for a B1, but to be honest, we have got so many opportunities at the moment that we don't need to consider that type of property. The other one is we will buy properties to turn into HMOs ourselves, where we're buying the raw product and creating the added value, but we won't value HMOs based on commercial valuations, unfortunately. So we wouldn't be the best buyer for HMOs and also flats with any type of cladding issue or not having an EWS1.
What about city centre flats, in the likes of Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, those kind of places?
We generally wouldn't be the buyer for them. We prefer traditional housing. We actually are much better buyer of houses because we don't have to take into account, service charge, current service charges, service charge projections, potential Section 20 major works. So we'd always be the best buyer for houses and also portfolios. We've seen, again, a significant upturn in landlords looking to exit their portfolio.
I know, Jason, that you're not fazed by problem properties. You don't mind short leases, subsidence, damp, mold, any of those issues. They don't faze you, and you will consider them.
Yeah, I think as we touched on earlier, we'll buy any type of property in any condition, anywhere. I say we've experienced all types of situations, and ultimately for us is just pricing in that risk. So as long as we fully understand the situation, then we can make our offers accordingly. But the other benefits of selling to Open Property Group is that the landlord doesn't pay any estate agents fees because we're a direct buyer. So you deal with us between us directly. We pay your legal costs. You've not got any loss of income. We can take over compliance. So if you haven't got a copy of a gas safety, if you haven't got a 5-year electrical inspection report, if you don't have an EPC, we can help with that. If there's an issue with maybe a dispute with your tenant, we can step in and mediate. We can contact tenants on your behalf to arrange these essential compliance. Whatever we can do to make the process easy for the landlord. I think the key is, as we touched on at the start, is that we are a trade buyer. We do offer below market value properties, but ultimately in this market, tenanted properties aren't worth full market value. We own 153 properties at the moment. If we could have a buyer come and offer us 100% of value, we may get out the market ourselves, but unfortunately that buyer is just not there because there are so many opportunities available at the moment. Whether we buy an auction, we buy through property commercial agents, it's expected that tenanted properties do trade at a discount to the vacant possession value.
Mm. But the good news is that the landlord receives rent up to the date of completion, and that's to be taken into account. And also the fact, as you mentioned, there's no estate agent fees. So when you take it all into account, a quick sale can be a solution in certain circumstances. And the whole point of this interview is to explain to landlords the sort of circumstances where your solution would work for them. And I think one of the upcoming things, Jason, I mentioned at the beginning of the call, the Renters' Rights Bill. When that comes into force, if a landlord is thinking of selling a property, he or she has to give the tenant 4 months notice that they're selling. Then obviously the property goes on the market. Now, if the property doesn't sell or the sale falls through, the landlord cannot re-advertise that property to let for 1 year. And if it is found to have been on the portals, and I'm not quite sure how they're going to enforce this, there are some very significant fines. So I'm thinking, Jason, that if in the future, when the RRB comes in and a sale drops out of bed, your solution could be the best thing for that landlord rather than sitting on an empty property for, potentially a year.
Yeah, that's right. We believe so, and I think a lot of people now they're just fed up with constant change of regulations, the new, the renters' rights bill, the change of government, familiarity of what they know, and also the fact of the majority of landlords that we speak to, they are just at an age where they just want to have a simpler life now, consolidate their affairs, maybe raise their equity that they've built up had a very difficult time to accumulate. They now want to see the benefits of that equity by spending it, by saving it, by gifting it, by investing it elsewhere. Especially where we've come from an environment of much higher interest rates. There are some other good investment opportunities available where
Mhm.
you can get solid returns.
Indeed. And, we're having conversations like that all over property tribes at the moment. But I think just to finish, I want to stress again, I think it is important, Jason, that our viewers and our members understand that it's actually you that's buying the property with your cash fund and you're not kind of an intermediary of any kind.
No, exactly. That's it. I think, Vanessa, you and me have known each other for must be nearly maybe over 10 years, I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And we've done many interviews over the years, and obviously kept a close relationship and regular conversations. And it's
Mm.
always good to catch up with you on air. But I think for us to say as a business, we own a 30 million pound portfolio. I say we own over 150 properties. Even in the last 12 months, we've completed 240 transactions. And even since I founded Open Property Group in 2014, we've completed over 1,500 transactions, plus probably another 1,000 transactions in previous careers. So we're a long-term investor. A lot of the family work within the business. We've got substantial revolving credit facility as well. And ultimately, just like most of your subscribers, we are professional landlords who are in this market for the long term.
Yeah, and I think that's so good to know. And, you know, Property Tribes only wants to work with trusted partners. And Nick and I feel confident to introduce our community to you for a quick house buying service. And I hope we made it very clear that Jason doesn't pay market value. It is a trade price that he will pay, typically 80% of the value, but we have highlighted the benefits if you are keen to sell. Now, if you're interested in getting an offer from Jason, there is a link below this video which contains a form that you can fill in with the details of your property, send it, and it goes direct to Jason, and he will be in touch with you within a couple of days to talk to you about your property.
Yeah, that's right. We have a team of property buyers in the office, in our buying teams. Once you make an inquiry through our website, or through the link, you will receive some questions come back to you with a bit more information required about the property, the tenancy, the rental information, brief description. So the more information you can provide us, the better and the quicker we'll be able to formulate an offer for you.
Indeed. And I think the final thing to say is that if somebody does accept the offer that you make, then the actual sales progression can be incredibly quick because you are a cash buyer. So I believe, it can be as little as 2 or 3 weeks if all the paperwork's in place.
That's right. It will work to whatever timescale required. Solicitors, unfortunately, sometimes there can be delays with them. But I think as long as we're just clear in managing expectations from the start, you tell us what timescale you want us to work to. Over the last few months, it's been sort of 5 days and things like that because, some clients just want out. They've even been, emigrating and things like that and getting their tax affairs in order. So a lot of people have just been anxious and worried about what's going on, hence why they've accelerated their plans. But as long as we're just clear from the offset what you want, and we'll work to the timescale that best suits you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the call to explain the Open Property Group quick house buying service. We do hope that landlords who feel that it could be a solution for them will indeed use the form to get in touch with Jason. If you've got any questions, please do drop them on the thread and we'll be able to get some answers from Jason for you. That's it, Jason. Thanks very much for coming on the call. Great to be working with you in this format. And I'm glad that we've been able to, make the introduction for our community to you because, as I said, it is a solution for certain landlords, and I hope, we've made it clear who those landlords might be.
Yeah, great to see you again, Vanessa, and thanks very much for this opportunity. Really look forward to working with you and speaking to a lot of the community.
Awesome. All right, then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Take care. Bye bye.